shelter in place, right? Everyone should have your notebook, pen and pencil, and if you can, turn your video on. If you're able to turn your video on, please do so. It just builds a lot of community, and it helps to see each other, and it helps for me to see you if I ask you to rate, put your thumb up or whatever. Here's our agenda for today. Do now, agenda, goals, norms, breakout groups, roles, and check-ins. We'll check in on the do now, and then back to the full group. In the full group, I'm going to be lecturing for a while, and that's the time to take notes. Again, that's the time that I'm going to record as well. So if I go too fast, you don't have to worry about it. I will make sure that I post the video of that lecture. Then we're going to go into breakout groups and do a practice FRQ. Okay. For the practice FRQ, it's going to be on unit 2. So it's going to be same concepts we've been working on with the whole time. And then preview unit 3, wrap up, and I'm going to give you a link to a survey. Okay. The learning goals for this Zoom meeting, unit 2, April 16th, are connect and collaborate with your classmates to review your unit 2 assessments for errors and clarifications, collaborate with your classmates to apply knowledge of population, the DTM, and immigration to answer an FRQ, and then ask questions and prepare for the unit 3 review. Okay, so these are student questions. These are the concepts you want explained. Different stages of DTM, pronatalist, antinatalist, population density, arithmetic density, physiological density, dependency ratio, and epidemiologic transition. So I'm going to go over every single one of those in time. Dependency ratio means the ratio of people who work to people who can't work because they're too old or too young. So it's your working age population in ratio with the people who can't work because they're under 14 or over 65. The complex definition, right? It's between the ages of 15 and 65, right? So you have your number of people 0 to 14 plus the number of people 0 to 65 over the number of people 15 to 64. So that produces your dependency ratio. Basically, it's saying just how many people work versus how many people can't work. This is what it looks like if we look at dependency ratios on a map. So we have, if you're over 100%, then that means there's more people in your country who can't work versus people who can work. And we can see in sub-Saharan Africa, there's a couple countries here where they have more children and old folks, but probably more children than they have people who are in the working age population. That's dependency ratio. We're going to go over population density versus distribution. Distribution means where and the patterns and arrangement. Density means how many per area, not where they are, but just how many per area. Okay. This one shows distribution, so that shows us the patterns, and then this map shows us the density. And you can see down here, this shows us the density in terms of per square mile, right? So you can see really high population densities here in Western Europe, and then parts of East Asia. And then in the United States, not so much, except for on the East and West coasts. Population density, the CRUDE or arithmetic density, is just total people over total land area. That's it. Very simple number. In the United States, we have 300 million people. We have 3,700,000,000 square miles. So we have 82 people per square mile. That is our CRUDE population density. We are a low density country. Physiologic population density means the total people over the total arable land. Arable land meaning land we can plant on. Okay, arithmetic versus CRUDE, total people over total land for the CRUDE, and then physiologic, total people over total arable land. So in Egypt, for example, there's 201 people per square mile, but they have 5,700 people per square mile of arable land. Okay, so the conclusion here is there's only a little bit of arable land. So here's Egypt, and we can see that that's true. Here's the Nile River, and that's really the only arable land in the whole country. The rest is all desert. So everyone lives in this area right here. This area right here, you cannot grow any food on. Okay, is it densely populated or not? In terms of total density, it is not. In terms of physiologic density, it is very, very densely populated because everyone lives in the same area. Okay, pro and antinatalist policies. I'm going to go over this really quick. Pro means have more kids. Government does things to incentivize having more kids. In Russia, they have something called Conception Day. So they give prizes awarded to couples who give birth in exactly 9 months. Anti the most obvious one is China's one-child policy. And anti-natalist policy means don't have more kids, right? Have less kids. So here we go. These are the two FRQs. Unit 1, the first one here is about population statistics for different countries in Africa. The second one is about European migration, historical and present day, and the DTM. So before we do that, we need to review the DTM because both of these questions rely heavily on the DTM, okay? So you don't have to have two different colored pens. This is what we did back in, I don't know, September or sometime whenever we had this lesson, okay, when we labeled the DTM, right? So beginning of the DTM, population growth goes up and down and it's just unstable, right? And you have low growth because you have high birth and high death rates. But in the second stage of the DTM, what you get is a lowering death rate and the birth rate remains high. Eventually, in the third stage, the birth rate starts to decline. The death rate continues to decline into the fourth stage where the birth rate now is very low. The death rate is also very low. And then in the fifth stage, the death rate is higher than the birth rate, okay? These match different stages. Declining population is the future. It's actually the present for Japan and Italy. Early industrialization is stage 2, okay? Early industrialization. Post-industrial, that's where the United States is decreasing growth, or stage 4. Fully industrialized is stage 3. That's where the United States was in the 1950s. And pre-industrial is stage 1. In terms of countries, Japan is currently in stage 5. Kenya is in stage 2, moving towards stage 3. The United States is in stage 4, moving towards stage 5. Now, why does this take place? Why does this massive drop in the death rate take place? This is the key that you have to understand for the DTM. The causes of this are industrialization, leading to sanitation, healthcare, hospitals, vaccines, etc. So that's why we have a drastic drop in the death rate. You also have a drastic drop in the infant mortality rate because now there's more sanitation and healthcare and hospitals. So the reason for the drop in the birth rate in stage 3, 4, and 5 is because urbanization, more people living in cities, less people in rural areas, smaller families, modernization, people not working in agriculture, but now working in the service industry, education and increased status of women, so women delaying childbirth, and then the increased cost of children, and we're not having rural children for having rural labor, okay? So all those contribute to decreasing birth rates. Okay, now draw the DTM from memory. You can do that on your own time. We're not going to take time for that in class. Now the epidemiological transition. In stage 1, this matches with the DTM. You have infectious parasitic diseases, accidents, and animal attacks, and natural checks on population. That is what accounts for the high death rates. Now in stage 2, you have receding pandemics because of sanitation, nutrition, and medicine, leading to lower death rate and lower IMR. And then in stage 3, we're looking at degenerative diseases, heart disease, cancer, diabetes. And in stage 4, even still degenerative diseases, but now delayed. So you're still having heart disease, cancer, diabetes, but delayed into a later stage in life. And then stage 5, potential resurgence of infectious diseases due to globalization. I find this extremely ironic given that we are actually going through this right now with COVID-19 being an infectious disease that is due to globalization. Okay, so these 5 stages match up with the epidemiological transition as well as the demographic transition. So again, here people are dying of, accidents and infectious diseases, a little bit less here. And then here, people are living longer lives because they have more healthcare. Okay, questions. If you have any questions, type them now. If not, if you're good to keep going, type 1 into the chat. Great. Okay, got ones from about 30 people, so I'm going to move on. All right. Okay, first FRQ. Describe what information in the demographic transition model provides about a country. Identify one country listed that is in stage 2. Describe one reason using the data in the table. Describe the relationship between birth rate and infant mortality rate as the epidemiological transition occurs. And then finally, explain what the total fertility rate and infant mortality rate imply about the roles of women. Okay, so here's how we did. C was the problem. Okay, C was where a lot of people lost points. A, B, and D were actually fairly good. So, but we're going to go over them one by one. So for part A, describe what information the demographic transition model provides. DTM provides info about birth rates, death rates, and population growth. That's it. Very few errors there. So people did very well there. For B, identify one country listed and describe if it's in stage 2 of the DTM and one reason. Okay. So the only two that are in stage 2 are Ethiopia and Nigeria. You have to have one of those two. If you put Egypt, that's incorrect. They have high birth rates and lowering death rates. So that's the reason. Okay. Again, very few errors on that one. C, people did have a lot of errors. Okay. And it says a student in 4th period wrote this. Actually, this is a sample from a 5th period student, not a 4th period student. Using the data in the table, describe the relationship between birth rate and infant mortality rate as the epidemiological transition occurs. As you move from stage 2 to stage 3, what's happening to birth rate and infant mortality rate? Here's the correct answer, which very few people got. The relationship between birth and infant mortality rate as the epidemiological transition occurs in the country is both the birth rate and the IMR decreases. That's right, they both go down. With a better healthcare system, women get options for contraception and get better care, decreasing the birth rate. A better healthcare system also helps women to get better care during their pregnancy and after birth. Infants get care needed to prevent death, therefore decreasing the IMR. It's a really good answer. If you recognize that as being your answer, then congratulations. D, explain what the total fertility rate and the infant mortality rate imply about the roles of women. Again, very few problems. I think most people in the class get this. When we have high birth rates and high IMR, that means women have low status because they don't have education or access to contraception. And the high IMR means that women are not having access to healthcare. Okay, that's the first FRQ. If you're ready for me to go on, then go ahead and type 1 into the chat. Great. Okay. The second one, we did not do as well. Okay, we did actually very poorly on this one. So for this one, part of it was not reading the question carefully. Over the past 150 years, Europe has changed from a source to a destination. Okay. Part A, use the DTM to explain Europe's development as a source, right? A source. That means where people migrate from, right? Of international migrants between 1800 and 1920. And then the second was one factor other than the DTM responsible for Europe as a source. And then C was 3 aspects of the DTM to account for Europe's transition into a destination, okay, not a source. For A, a lot of errors. Use the DTM to explain Europe's development as a source. Now, the reason that Europe became a source for migration is it was in stage 2 and 3, right? Early industrialization. This led to overpopulation. They had a population boom, which was accompanied by a lack of resources, and that acted as a push factor, making people leave Europe and travel to the United States and become a source of immigration. Not a destination, but a source. Okay. Part B, very few people got this incorrect. This one was really a history question, and it's what are push factors in the 1800s to push people out of Europe? And again, these are sort of historical things like the Irish potato famine, religious persecution of Jewish people, war happening, and poverty. Okay, so that one was pretty easy. Part C, again, very few people got this correct. So for part C, briefly explain how 3 aspects of the demographic transition model account for Europe's transformation into a destination region. This is what we missed. The answers were really good. They demonstrated a lot of knowledge, but they didn't answer the question being asked. All they care about in terms of push and pull factors were push and pull factors related to the DTM. That's what people missed. So Europe is in stage 4 and 5. Low birth rates, long life expectancy, aging population. Need for more labor. When you have an aging pop, you need more people to come. You need people to take care of the elderly. There's going to be plenty of job opportunities when you have this aging population. Now, North Africa is stage 2 or 3 of the DTM, and so they're having a population explosion. So they have less opportunity, and that acts as a push factor. Okay. So the answers read mostly like good answers for regular push and pull factors, but they were not related to the DTM. All right, if you have questions, type them now. If not, type 1 into the chat, and we're going to take our practice FRQ now. All right, this is our practice FRQ. I'm actually going to link it for you, and then I'm going to put you in small groups, and you're going to answer it. The link that I'm going to send you is going to have, it's going to be a document with this question in it, and then a space for your group to type your answer. So there should be one person in your group or two who are typing the answers into the, okay, the part A, the region is Africa or sub-Saharan Africa, not acceptable North or South Africa, okay? Part B, 3 factors that contribute. Lack of access to medical care or contraception or family planning, that's 1. You can't have both medical care and planning is 2. High IMR, lack of educational access for women, traditional social practices, children seen as laborers, culture or religious preference for male children or large families, low level of HDI, low economic development, a rural or agrarian community, early marriage, lack of laws, pro-natalist government policies, wars, disaster, environmental crisis, or decreasing death rates. So any of those is correct. You need 3. Part C, 1 economic incentive to decrease population growth, distribution or affordability of contraception, economic development, poverty reduction, promoting female labor force, offering incentives for smaller families, implementing a government economic safety net to support the elderly. All those are economic incentives for decreasing population. Social programs would be promote family planning or reproductive health, increasing education for girls, implementing anti-natalist policies, right, like one-child policy, improving healthcare for women, infants, and children, producing media or ad campaigns, promoting urbanization, changing, implementing, or enforcing laws about increasing minimum wage. Okay, the potential impacts would be reduced birth rates or fertility rates, move from stage 2 to 3, fewer children lead to more resources, better education, improve gender equality or female empowerment, conflicts between traditional and social norms and new population programs, increased social tension between men and women, a skewed gender ratio, we see that in China, and increased elderly dependency ratio. So all these are potential impacts for both C and D. Okay, any questions? Type them now. If not, type 1 into the chat and we will close class.